Huh? Huh? It's me! It's me from middle school! This was supposed to be when I peed!
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama. Welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the first season of the Tokyo Revengers anime. Finally!
Yes, this series has become a big new favorite of mine, and we're only sorry that we took so long to cover it.
But before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, click the notification on future podcasts and all the pause videos.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. We appreciate you so much, our specials.
Yes.
So yes, Tokyo Revengers. You might have seen my video I put up and let you know I started buying the manga volumes so I could read to see if the manga lines up with the anime. And fortunately, we were able to begin this series on Crunchyroll and not Hulu like with season 2.
Yes. And this whole first season has 24 episodes. So you actually got just one entire full season rather than a cut down arc of 13 or less.
True. And for those of you not familiar with Tokyo Revengers, it is based on a manga, as I mentioned, written by Ken Wakui. The manga has 31 volumes. It's action, sci-fi, thriller, and Yankee. Sci-fi because there's time travel involved. And Yankee because it's like Windbreaker, but before Windbreaks, but considered Yankee genre. And I don't know how I got caught up in it, how I ended up loving it, but I absolutely did. We'd heard some people mentioning it and talking about it on Twix.
We call it.
And it seemed really interesting to me. So finally we gave it a try. And we actually started watching this season last year. And we got to episode 14 when we thought, okay, Takamichi solved it. Everything's going to be fine. Hannah saved. And then all of a sudden she was gone again. And so was
one of his best friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, threw something across the room and said, okay, I'm done. Not knowing that this is how the story went.
Right.
And so we got back to it this year.
Right. So, yes, this is actually the main conflict of the story where Takamichi has to keep going back in time to a certain point in history because he can't go back to the same day twice, and he's changing events that happened in the past with the Tomon gang and the outcomes of certain events, like when they're going up against other people or rival gangs, or the choices the people make, so it doesn't come to the future and they end up dead. Because according to what we see in this first season, one of their former members just kind of went off the rails, became one of the biggest crime leaders in all of Tokyo or Japan, and they just kind of were taking out people mafia style, and they were constantly on the news, and it was basically like a revenge story for them. So to stop them, he has to go back and keep changing things so it doesn't escalate to this point where they've pretty much dominated all of Tokyo.
So what's interesting is when the anime starts, you see Takamichi, he's at work, you can tell he's not happy, he goes home, and he's like, how did my life end up like this? And he's got a ton of porn, he's living in an apartment by himself, and he's watching the news, and he's really, really unhappy. And then he sees a news report that there was a death involving Hinata Takebana, which was his ex-girlfriend in high school, and he had seen her since then. So the next day he goes back to work, and you don't know it at the time, but he ends up being pushed off the subway platform, and you think he's going to get hit by a train, but instead he goes back exactly 12 years prior.
Right. A weird way for it to happen, yeah.
The year that he was dating Hina. And so he doesn't know what happened. He looks confused. He sees himself with blonde hair and this weird haircut. And he sees all his old friends. And then he ends up meeting Tomon gang. Ends up eating Draken and Mikey and Chifuyu. And then all these things happen where he is like confused and saying, oh, my hair is this color and this happened and that happened, and then something happens and he's transported back to the present, and he ends up seeing Hina's brother,
Right.
who knows that he time travels. I think I kind of mixed that up. I think that's true. He
Okay.
gets back because he's in the bed in the hospital, and Hina's brother has figured out that he time traveled.
Right.
And he says, you were pushed, and I need you to help me save my sister.
Right.
And that pretty much is the whole plot of Tokyo Revengers.
Yes.
With all these other sub-stories or other arcs that are involved while that happens.
Exactly. And during the course of these 24 episodes, Takemichi goes back a few times. It's not like every single episode he goes back and forth.
Right.
He usually stays in the past for a certain amount of time. It looks like he's succeeding what he's supposed to do or prevent. He goes back to the present. And each time he thinks he's done, oh no, stuff still happens. He has to go back again, but this time to a different day and try to prevent some other things from happening. So it's never really the same issue twice. It's really more so of something changes in the timeline where there are some things that are better, but once he stays around long enough, he sees there are still some worse things happening to other people, or people are still dying because of his gang, like they have a chokehold on everybody in the city. So the more it goes through the season, eventually season 2 and 3, the more you see why it's important for him to succeed, because the bad guys are so bad, he might be next and may not be able to go back again. So while he's in the past and you meet these other characters, you start to learn more about Takemichi and his relationships.
Takemichi. They keep
Takemichi.
calling him Takemichi.
No, I like one person said Takemichi and like a what?
And that's what Mikey calls me at first, and he said, my name's Takemichi. He says, the boss says your name is Takemichi. It's Takemichi.
Yeah, he's like, okay. And the way they even have it start off and you see his friends, they want to start their own group because they were tired of getting their butts kicked every single day by some group. Well, they still get it kicked, but now it's just all together. And you see them actually progress and get a little better as it goes on. But you end up finding out how he ends up in the Tomon game, and it's in such the weirdest way, because these people kind of get a joy out of kicking this guy's behind. It's like, I think you need some help.
So each time he goes back, I also want to mention his objective changes when something doesn't work. He and Hina's brother decide they're going to do something else. And Hina's brother is actually a police captain. So how it works is when he shakes hands with him, that's when he's transported back to the past.
Right.
And when he's in the past, he has to shake hands with him or find him.
Right.
Sometimes to get back sooner if it hasn't happened already under regular circumstances.
Right.
So I just wanted to mention that, how it works. So in the first season, we get a lot of backstory on Tomon, which is Tokyo Manji gang formed by Mikey, Manjiro Sano, and his best friend Draken. And so it's really interesting and fun this season. The second season it isn't.
Nope, thanks Disney.
You have serious episodes, but within it you've got background episodes, you've got episodes that are just fun, just laugh out loud funny while they get to know Takemichi. And Takemichi ends up becoming Mikey's favorite because he tells him, you remind me of my brother, his brother Shinichiro, who was killed, and you found out why and how later. But it's really just, season 1 is fantastic. Season 1 was perfect. It couldn't have been better. It could have been longer, and that's the only thing that would have made it better.
Right.
And what I really love about this anime is, first, before we get to the characters and the plots and so forth that I love the opening song called Crybaby.
Right.
And I love the opening. It's fantastic. It's perfect. And yes, it's called Crybaby because Takemichi cries all the time, like Deku did.
Yeah.
And
why were people so upset over it? Like, you watch Deku cry, what's the difference?
And they even call him our Crybaby hero. But the opening is fantastic, and so is the opening song. And the outro is nice too, but this is my favorite opening so far, especially with Disney taking over. The openings are generic and crappy.
And they barely draw.
So enjoy season 1's opening. I really love the details that have gone into writing this. There's just so much information that you get, but it's not like an overload. It's not like the comic books in the West where you got all these bubbles and 10 million
Things
bits
to
of
focus
information
on.
are in it. It's unraveled during the course of each episode. You get some here and some there. Sometimes you get flashback information, and the flashbacks are always filled with things you wanted to know, but they hadn't told you yet.
Right.
The characters are written very well, and they're fleshed out, and they have personalities. Not only do they look different from each other, they are different from each other.
Right.
There's not like cut and paste Disney style. These characters are all unique individuals, and it looks like you're watching people that you know
Right.
or may have known in your teenage years. If
Right.
you're not a teen listening to this, it seems like, hey, I could have known these people. I could have seen these guys at my high school.
Right.
And you love how their interactions are, how the core group of Tomon, they formed it, how they were friends before, and you find out why they formed it. And when you find out why, you're going to go, really? Okay. And then you find out that they're a biker gang.
Yeah.
They all have their motorcycles. And it's just fun when you have Bloody Halloween battle. Before that is fun. During the battle is interesting because you don't know what's going to happen. And I know I've seen people online saying it's predictable. Bullcrap, it's not.
I wonder what you've been watching. It's predictable sometimes.
And it's just really interesting to see how the story unfolds. And you get to the end and you get a cliffhanger that unless you read the manga, which we hadn't at the time, you didn't know what was happening. When you saw the end, at least when I did, it's like, no, oh my gosh. He fought for all this to try to keep Kisaki from being the leader. And then the final episode, which really isn't a spoiler since there's a season 2 and 3.
Right.
Mikey still hit a Tomon, but Kisaki is his captain.
Yeah.
And he's running everything, and Mikey's nowhere to be found. And Kisaki is taking out other members of Tomon, and he's getting ready to take out Takamichi. And that was one heck of a freaking ending, cliffhanger to season 1.
Right. And I think one thing I do like about it is I miss all of this chaos and the battles, and they usually have big battles up until season 2. And you have these, like you said, these character interaction and moments. They do manage to put in quite a bit of humor sprinkled out. Sometimes there's moments after something really heavy or serious happens. There's a fire and someone actually dies in here. They try to add some levity with interactions. They make fun of Takamichi or things. And then other times they'll just have one whole episode where they kind of just goof off like nothing happened and you're just laughing the whole time. And it's actually done really well. And half the time you're kind of laughing at the stuff from Mikey because you see how he is when he fights. And he's all the invincible Mikey.
Yes.
And then you see his stuff when he's not fighting and like he goes to sleep a lot. Like mostly after he eats, he just says the oddest things and you're not supposed to question it. And there's one point where he was riding on the back of a bike and then they turn around and he's falling asleep and it's like, how did you do that?
Wake up before you fall. And when he falls asleep, Draken ends up carrying him on his back.
It's like, why?
And they're like brothers. Oh my! And
Like,
you're
what?
like, is this the same person? And then another thing that's great that we haven't gotten into yet is, from what I understand, there are 14 time travels that Takamichi does.
Right.
And there are, I think, 12 different versions of how each of the characters turn out. They look different, they act different, and they're different outcomes.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in reading and seeing this. I'm pretty sure the anime doesn't cover them all.
Yeah,
And if you go
probably
online,
not.
you can see videos that show you
Right.
how they look. And some of them are bad outcomes. Some of them are outcomes. Unfortunately, the outcomes are always when Hinata dies. But in some of them, other characters are taken out as well. And some of them characters have gone evil. And some of them characters have lost it. One of them is the worst one with Mikey that you end up finding out about, is that season 2 we find out
Yeah.
about? Yeah. The Arthur Wakui really took his time and thought about how to write this.
Right.
So, in case you don't know, Mikey's my favorite, Draka's my boy, and Takamichi, you can't help liking him. You want him to succeed.
And I
You
don't
want
care.
him to turn out better. You want him to be happy. You want him to end up with Hinata.
Right. And I kind of don't understand really the hate for it, at least for season 1. I can kind of understand with season 2 and the Christmas one, that one was just bad.
Yeah.
But when people said they couldn't stand this story, or they hated it, it was predictable. They hated Takamichi because he was crying, but you were fine with Deku crying. These other characters, I don't really understand what they were so like against it for. Then they get Windbreakers out now, and that's a great show in itself.
Absolutely.
But it's like, here, watch this. This is what Tokyo Revengers should have been. This is the better version. Just watch that and take it aside. But to me, it's like, why can't you just like both, if you like both?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because they literally are 2 different anime. Both Yankee, but they are different shows. Windbreaker is more slice of life, based in reality, and you've got Tokyo Revengers is time travel, as we mentioned, sci-fi thriller. You've got a lot of things going on in Tokyo Revengers, but in Windbreakers, you've just got these guys, and they're protecting the neighborhood, and it's Yankee, and the characters are likable, and you see them working out their differences. In season 1, which is fantastic, they are different shows. So you can't just say, oh, watch this instead, or watch this instead. Watch them both. They're different shows. They're both excellent examples of Yankee, and you will enjoy them both. Don't listen to the hate out there for Tokyo Revengers. It is an awesome anime, and I'm hoping to be a great manga by the time I finish. One last thing I want to mention is that there have also been chibi versions.
Oh, no.
And
a movie.
Disney announced they're going to have a fairy tale version. I don't know how the heck they're going to get
I
that.
don't know.
And as Rascal said, 2 live action movies, 1 and 2. We're going to be reviewing 1 for you. We can't wait because it's hilarious. It is not Tokyo Revengers, at least, sorry. And I suggested you start off with it. Start off with season 1. Watch it. Come back and tell us what you think if you haven't seen it. But if you have watched it, tell us what you think of it in the comments below. And also, if you've read the manga, what do you think of the manga as compared to the anime? This has become one of my favorites, and I can't wait to finish through season 3, even if it's bad, because I want to see how messed up it was, or how much it veered from the manga, if it did, or if it lines up with it.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, and we'll give you for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Who's your favorite character?
I guess it would be either Mikey or Takamichi or Takamichi, whatever Michi it is.
Oh, one last thing. We didn't give a shout out to the voice actors. Some of your favorites will be in here. Alex Lee is voicing Mikey. You've got Yuji, I keep calling him. Adam MacArthur voicing Chifuyu. You've got some other favorites that are in here. You'll know them when you hear them. And it's a fantastic voice acting cast. You really are going to enjoy this anime if you've never seen it.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching.
And thank you for subscribing, sharing our videos, and commenting. As always, you are special.
I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
I've got to take over Tomon.
You know this idea is insane.
I'm never going to quit trying.